Quite an understatement to say that a lot has happened at the Capitol this year. Of course, the insurrection, January 6th, National Guard troops being brought in, fencing went up. Some of it has since come back down. I want to bring in investigative reporter Nathan Baca into the conversation. He's been following all of these developments very closely. You know, Nathan, the outer perimeter just came down at the end of last month.
Well, it did, and with that, it left two vehicle entrances to get into the Capitol. Now, the one where today's incident happened on Constitution at the end of Delaware, that's the quieter of the two. Now, even before January 6th, the barricade would not have that much pedestrian traffic. That's because the area between the Senate and the Senate office buildings to the north of the Capitol, most of the staffers there take tunnels, but as we previously reported, the House and the Senate were in recess. Now, the southern entrance between the House and its office buildings has many more people walking because they don't have as many tunnels over there. Now, since the Capitol attack, I've walked through that barricade multiple times, and here is what you typically see. Now, typically, one Capitol police officer is in front of the vehicle barricade, approaching cars and pedestrians, basically checking in on their passes, the color-coded passes. Now, there's usually one Capitol police officer behind the barricade, and to the left or the northeast, you typically see National Guard soldiers, about 4 or 6 of them in a group. They're usually just there observing, not particularly engaging with people coming in and out. Now, because that section of Delaware Avenue remains closed going to the north from Constitution Avenue, the car you see there would actually have had to have turned pretty quickly from Constitution Avenue to get to that vehicle barricade, and effectively very suddenly, because they wouldn't have been able to get up to speed along Delaware Avenue. Now, we also noticed that DC Metropolitan Police and the U.S. Park Police had a helicopter that landed in that area. Really quick response. Now, in a sense, this comes after the congressional hearings and the FBI really highlighted how the pipe bombs that were deployed just hours before the insurrection were served as a diversionary tactic. Now, what happened is that diversionary tactic worked. You had the RNC and the DNC where you had U.S. Capitol Police back in the morning of January 6th. U.S. Capitol Police sent officers over there, and that meant that they weren't there guarding the perimeter. So it could be certain that it was on the mind of acting Capitol Police Chief Yogananda Pittman, because she had to keep her forces' eyes forward while also bringing in other officers from other agencies to help support and help look at the surrounding area. So you also take a look at the vehicle barricades. The vehicle barricades are there to prevent an Oklahoma City-style bomb attack, which, as our crews in the field noted, was one of the first things that police officers checked right there in that car. So reporting live, Nathan Baca, WUSA 9.